Hey, what's up, everybody? The Chicago Gooner bringing another Arsenal talk. In this Arsenal talk, I'm going to be talking about something I mentioned in one of my last couple episodes was the new era of Arsenal Football Club, and also I'll get into transfers maybe at the end a little bit. I'll throw through a few things at you, a few things to think about near the end, but I really want to talk about this new era of Arsenal Football Club. This era, it took a while to kind of show its face, to show where it's going. But you can almost say that the new era started almost all the way back in the early 2000s when uh, the approval for the Emirates was given by the Arsenal board. Because you have to hand it to, as much stick as we give to Arsene Wenger, the Arsenal board, the people who owned Arsenal even at the time and even now, that we give them so much stick, but at the same time, they could see the future. They could see what the modern game was going to bring, and of how much money you've had to spend as a club to remain as one of the biggest clubs in the world. And you could say the new era almost started all the way back in the early 2000s when the Emirates was approved, because they could see the future. They could see that, as great as Highbury was, you you just couldn't keep a hold of that and make the type of money to compete with Manchester United or a Chelsea or later in the decade, as far as the 2000s go, the early 2000s was Manchester United or Manchester City. Then you got, of course, you have like you go to Champions League, you have like the PSGs, the Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Dortmund. You have some of those clubs to compete with, even though Dortmund is kind of like a mirror image of us, if you really want to look at of how they do business. But there's been a lot of different eras just in this century alone. When you look at it, there was the Invincibles era, which ended, you could say it ended around '06, '07, especially when Henri left in '07. And that started a new era, which involved like Cesc Fabregas and RVP and like Alex Son and Sami Nasri and Gler Kishi, all those guys. Um, and this is starting a new era, which, in my opinion, the new era of Arsenal Football Club kind of started in 2011 when Stan Kroenke took over, when he became the majority owner. At the time, and even up until last summer, people were questioning him of, what are you doing? What's your business model? What's your end game for Arsenal Football Club? And he got tons of stick last year. I mean, he just got like smashed on Twitter, um, time and time again, especially of how our transfer window went last year and the lack of spending and whatnot. And you could say that's when it really started, because we got actual, like, kind of like businessmen. If you can go back all the way to the early 2000s, Arsenal was almost bankrupt during that time, even though we had Bergkamp, Vieira, Henry, Perez. The list goes on and on of world class talent. But we just didn't have the money coming in as from commercial revenue, um, even ticket sales alone. I know we were playing our Champions League football games sometimes at Wembley because we needed more capacity, and even when we played at Wembley, we still had to pay Wembley a certain amount of money, and we almost basically came out even in that every single time. And a lot of our cup games and stuff like that, we had to play at Wembley as well, to where there wasn't as much money as people thought that was coming in. But you could say like the new era really started with Stan Kroenke taking over, and the old era ended when RVP left. and I wanted to talk about this a little bit for like the Cesc Fabregas thing from like this summer, and also like RVP and what happened with those guys, and what my opinion was about these guys of when they left. Um, as far as Cesc Fabregas goes, and RVP, it was kind of odd of uh, how they left. Cesc Fabregas, you can almost say, okay, he's going back to his boyhood club. Um, he also put in a little bit of a thing, like when Thierry Henry left, and he said, the club lacks ambition. They're not investing in the club. Which, I mean, still to this day, I think Henry gets a pass from most fans because of what he did for the club. All the trophies that he won, being the leading scorer. Even ever since he left, he's been an ambassador for Arsenal. But at the same time, Thierry Henry was just like Cesc Fabregas, like RVP, of when we needed him the most, when he needed to stay at Arsenal the most, he left. And it's just like with Cesc Fabregas, when we needed him the most, when he needed to stay at the club and to represent Arsenal and to be that guy, to be that face of the club, to maybe help the fans out, maybe even help himself out. He left for Barcelona. And then when RVP left, he said the same exact thing that Henry said. A lot of those guys that left, even with Ashley Cole, he left over £5,000, which is, people have said that's the rumor of why he left, because Arsenal didn't want to pay him an extra £5,000, which I really find that hard to believe. There had to be more going on, or maybe he just wanted to leave completely. Of course, Chelsea offered him a huge amount of wages that we couldn't really compete with at the time. But a lot of these guys, they kind of took what Henry said when he left the club and said the same thing, almost thinking that, well, if he said it, I can say it too, and it'll be okay, and none of the fans will hate me. Well, it kind of backfired on Cesc. It kind of backfired on RVP. It backfired on RVP more than anyone, because even till up until this summer, people loved Cesc. They still talked about Cesc every single time. I mean, you could go back on Twitter, every single day someone was saying good things about Cesc Fabregas and saying, come back to the club, come back to the club. But when RVP left, during that time, it was kind of shocking to me to where Arsene Wenger said no to Cesc Fabregas this summer. I mean, it sent shockwaves throughout all of Arsenal. The fans were up in an uproar. Some fans were saying, "Good, don't let that prick come back onto the club." But the majority was shocked that Arsenal wouldn't bring him back. I was shocked. You could see in one of my first episodes of Arsenal Talk that I said you do not say no to a world-class player. And I'll be perfectly honest, I was pissed that we didn't bring him back on. But then after thinking about everything and digesting everything of why we're saying no, I mean, the main reason we're saying no is because of Mesut Ozil, Aaron Ramsey, even those two guys. But you have to think a little bit. What's going on with Cesc Fabregas? What's wrong with him? Gerard Piqué came out, recently and said, the only thing that Cesc Fabregas talked about in the dressing room was Arsenal, which is kind of funny to me. But when you really think about it, what's going on with Cesc Fabregas? What's wrong with him? Was there something even wrong with him at Arsenal as well? because you have to you just have to go back. I mean, Cesc Fabregas must feel like the biggest idiot in the world right now because he had it all at Arsenal. He was the club captain. The players respected him. The coaching staff loved him, respected him. The fans loved him. He was the new face. After Henry left, he was the guy. He was the guy that everybody looked towards. He was an Arsenal legend in the making. And even to this day, people still consider him an Arsenal legend. I don't know how much anymore because he's going to Chelsea. But he had it all here. He had everything. I mean, he had a voice. He could probably even go to Arsene Wenger and said, I want this guy at the club. When we were able to spend money again, he probably could have said, I want this guy, I want that guy, I want this guy, because Arsene Wenger pretty much ran his system through Cesc Fabregas. I mean, he was a centerpiece. It wasn't RVP. It wasn't Sami Nasri or Arshavin or, I mean, you can name any guy on Arsenal's team between '07 and 2011. Cesc Fabregas was the guy. Not a striker when you usually think, okay, a striker is the main piece of how we're going to build our team around him. But it was Cesc Fabregas who we built our team around during that time. And he must feel like the biggest idiot because he had everything here. And then he goes back to Barcelona. I mean, he is the quintessential idea that the grass isn't greener on the other side. He went to Barcelona thinking it was all going to be great. He was going to be playing. He was going to lead them to, titles and trophies and whatever. And he was going to become a Barcelona legend. And that was furthest from the truth. I think he got a rude awakening when he first got there. He didn't get into the side that much. He was coming in as a substitute a lot. He played second fiddle, which he wasn't used to Iniesta, to Xavi. And Cesc Fabregas, unfortunately, he waited a year too late to come back to Arsenal. Because it's just my opinion last summer of why it took Ozil that long to be announced to say that he's coming to Arsenal. Because I think Arsene Wenger was waiting on Cesc Fabregas. I think he was waiting to see if Cesc Fabregas would say, you know what, I want to come back. That's why I think it took that long. And of course with the Gareth Bale transfer and everything like that. But I almost think that Ozil was the second option, not the first option. Because why wouldn't you want to bring back a guy who knows the system, who's been playing in the Premier League, he's Premier League ready, rather than, even though I think Ozil is better all around. But then, Cesc Fabregas goes with, all this stuff, and, he must be a little bit of a headache in the dressing room. He must be a little bit of a headache off the pitch. I mean, you kind of saw that with Spain this past World Cup. There's a little clip of him having to give up his jersey or his spot on the pitch for Xabi Alonso in a training session, and then you just see Fabregas throwing his jersey and then riding off on a bike. When I saw that, things started to kind of sink in. What's wrong with Cesc Fabregas off the pitch? On the pitch, he's a great player. You can't deny that. He gives everything that he has, whoever he plays for, whether it's his national team, whether it's club team. But what's wrong with him off the pitch? What kind of waves does he make? And it's kind of like a segue into RVP. Was Cesc Fabregas even more of an instigator than RVP? Because RVP was just thank God that cocksucker's gone. Because I can be completely honest with you, even when he was with Arsenal, I didn't like the guy. Yeah, he did great things on the pitch for his last 2 years, but the guy just seemed like a prick. Because you heard little rumblings of him giving shit to his teammates. Of course, he got into a physical altercation with his teammate, Aaron Ramsey. He threatened Theo Walcott on the pitch, saying that I'll beat you up if you don't give me the ball. What kind of teammates are those? Where was, especially with the Aaron Ramsey stuff and Jack Wilshere and all the young guys that were coming in through the system. Where was Cesc Fabregas? He was the club captain. He was supposed to monitor and what's the word I'm looking for? He was supposed to monitor and keep everything balanced. He was supposed to keep guys in check, like an RVP, regardless if he thinks he's world class and all this other crap, and that he's special. As a club captain, you're supposed to put that stuff in check. Maybe Cesc left because of RVP. That could be another conspiracy theory. Because he was sick of RVP's attitude. What kind of teammate is that? That he's threatening other teammates. That's just a cancer inside your dressing room that you do not need. So it was a problem. Well, obviously there was a problem with RVP because it's well documented. But was there a problem with Cesc Fabregas? Is that a reason? Is that a main reason why Arsene Wenger didn't want him back at the club? But I think the main reason is Arsene Wenger turned the page. He turned the page on the Invincibles. Now he's turning the page. Now he turned the page on the Cesc Fabregas RVP era. And he's turning the page into a brighter area, or a brighter era. Because unlike Cesc, unlike RVP, those guys didn't want to wait. They wanted to win now. It's great to be competitive. It's great to be wanting to win trophies, having that determination, wanting to do good things for your club. But those guys were so impatient. If you look back at some of those teams with Cesc Fabregas, RVP, Sami Nasri, Gael Clichy, you look at some of those teams and you have to really think, how the fuck did those teams not win anything? Because they were stacked with talent. I know Manchester United was stacked. I know at the time Chelsea was kind of had a lot of talent. But not one trophy? I know there's the Birmingham City disaster, but of course that's the League One Cup, something that Arsenal has never really cared about, especially Arsene Wenger since he got to the club. But not one thing. I know we made the Champions League final, the semi-final, and whatnot in the Champions League. But not one Premier League, not one FA Cup. So when RVP left, that was the end of an era. That was the end of kind of that hiccup, I guess you can say, in Arsenal Football Club. And it's kind of funny that Cesc Fabregas, RVP, some of those guys, all they had to do was wait probably one more season. Instead of listening to your manager, instead of listening to Stan Kroenke or Ivan Gazidis saying, just wait one more year and we're going to start spending money. They didn't want to wait. And then that 12 and 13 season, you started to see some of those younger guys, like an Aaron Ramsey, Walcott, Jack Wilshere, really Kieran Gibbs, Szczesny. You could see these guys step their game up. You could see these guys ready to take on the next chapter, ready to take on that challenge. Because this is just my opinion. I know, as far as a whole season goes, the 12 and 13 season might be Arsene Wenger's best as a manager. I know people will say the Invincible season and whatnot. Of course, I wasn't watching Arsenal at the time. But when you really look at that season, you look at that roster and you're thinking, man, how the fuck did we finish fourth that year? Because there was no reason why we should have. When our most prolific goal scorer leaves, our two club captains leave in consecutive years. We lost so much talent within 2 years that no other club in the world could even said. We basically lost almost our starting 11 within 2 years at Arsenal. But this is the type of confidence that Arsene Wenger had in his youngsters, that they could take it to the next level, that they could be professionals, that they can be stars. So you can almost say the 12 and 13 season was a start of the new era of Arsenal Football Club. And that whole season, I mean, what Arsene Wenger did, of how he managed the season, and of how, we had to grind out wins, obviously, especially near the end of the year. We had to really grind them out. 1-0 to the Arsenal. I mean, it was coming back to those days, to where we had to grind out wins to secure that fourth place spot. And you're going to see how important that fourth place spot is this year when you're going to look at a Manchester United. They're trying to go after every big name in the world, and big names are saying no to them because they don't have Champions League football. They don't have that European nights. And unfortunately, at least for Manchester United goes, they have all the money in the world. I mean, they're one of the biggest clubs in the world, so they have enough money that it may not hurt them. But if it continues, it's going to hurt them eventually, if they don't get it back after next season. But again, this new era, you're seeing the confidence that Arsene Wenger has in his youngsters. You're seeing the confidence. People try to keep on saying that, even with Ozil and Alexis Sanchez signings, Arsenal is still 3 or 4 players away from really contending for anything. I would have to disagree with that, because what we lack in spending, we made up for in our youngsters and developing our talent, which is a staple of Arsenal. In developing talent, to bring the most out of a player, to bring the most potential out of a player. Like I said, like Dortmund. I mean, Dortmund and Arsenal, they're like mirror images of each other. Their youth system is great. They don't spend a whole lot of money, but when they do, they spend it wisely. They have a great fan base, and they get them. And Klopp is one of the best managers in the world, in my opinion. The guy is like a mirror image of Arsene Wenger, to where he gets the most out of his players. But what we lacked in spending, we made up for in development. Jack Wilshere, Aaron Ramsey, Theo Walcott, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Kieran Gibbs, Szczesny. You can even put Sanya's name in there. You can even put Koscielny's name in there, because no one knew who the fuck Sanya was or Koscielny was when they came to the club. They came from really small clubs that no one even heard of. No one even heard their names. And Arsene Wenger was able to get the best out of them. Koscielny right now is considered one of the best center halves in the world. Sanya, throughout his time at Arsenal, was slowly becoming a kind of like a world-class right back. And those youngsters and those guys that we developed are starting to show their face. They're starting to gain that confidence. When you have a guy like an RVP who is just a complete cocksucker, holding players back. When you're a player, you don't want to have fear. You don't want to have, oh God, if I take a shot here and if I miss, I'm going to hear it. You don't want to hear that from your teammates. You don't want to have that fear factor when you're on the pitch. In that 12-13 season, you could see the potential that Theo Walcott has. He was our leading scorer. He was our leading assist maker. And it's just unfortunate that he got hurt last year and that he was out for the majority of the season last year. Because if he was just as important as Aaron Ramsey last year, of missing him. I think even with Aaron Ramsey out for those 3.5, 4 months, if we still had Walcott through those months, I think we still win the league easily. But you saw in that 12-13 season, Theo Walcott stepping up his game, saying, you know what, I'm kind of sick of just being a role player. I want to be the guy. And he was that guy. I mean, you could see in the beginning of the season he was red hot, and then he kind of tailed off a little bit in the mid part of the season. But at the end of the season, he scored some major important goals for us at the end of the season to get us wins. And of course, this past year, you just saw the emergence of Aaron Ramsey, of how great he can be. And of course, we all know how great that Jack Wilshere can be. He just has to stay healthy. You could see of how great that Kieran Gibbs can be. He can be the best left back in the EPL if he wants to be. He just needs to stay healthy. That's been a staple of Arsenal as well, is injuries. We've had to deal with so many injuries over the past probably like 10 years, more than any other club. Other club fans, they try to tell me, well, injuries are part of the game. Not with Arsenal. I mean, you can pinpoint different times that we should have won the league. The 08-09 season with our Eduardo breaking his leg. Aaron Ramsey the following year getting his leg broken. Last year we had the most injuries of any club in the English Premier League, and it was by a large margin too. I think even in Champions League we had the most injuries of any club as well. When you take into those factors, I mean, and you're starting to see these guys grow. You're starting to see these guys, take a hold of what is theirs, which is Arsenal Football Club. They're ready to step up. They're ready to be those guys. They're ready to be. This might be another type of, in my opinion, with adding players, you might be seeing another, Invincibles era come into Arsenal. Because Arsenal is just doing things the right way right now, business-wise, on the pitch, in the transfer market now. Because you can even go back to Stan Kroenke and what his business model was, and now you're seeing it. Now you're really seeing what the business model is. Of course, season tickets and ticket pricing, that'll probably never change because he is an American owner. That's what American owners do. Every other year, sometimes every year, they raise ticket prices. Because one thing that we do not know is what is the daily cost of running a club. And obviously they're too high. I get that, but the business model of the club, I mean, you can go back to January when Arsenal released their yearly financial report, and they said they had zero bad debt, which is unheard of from a big club like Arsenal, of the amount of revenue that Arsenal brings in. That is unheard of. You look at other clubs, I mean, you look at a La Liga, other than Barcelona and Real Madrid, and I know Atletico Madrid has been working hard to get themselves out of debt, but the majority of that league is bankrupt. The majority of that league is dying for money. We managed to pay off the Emirates, and what? The Emirates ended up costing 120 million pounds more than it was originally planned to. I think it was 390 million pounds was the final cost for the Emirates. And we managed to pay that off in 7 years. And we have zero bad debt. I don't know if anybody realizes how significant that is. Bad debt is something that is, you need to pay off within the first couple of years, maybe up to 5 years. Good debt is something that you need to pay off within 15 to 20 years. Real Madrid even has, bad debt is considered, bank loans that need to be paid back, third-party loans for, a lot of the La Liga clubs do that with third-party loans for transfers. Real Madrid does third-party loans, which is kind of crazy to me. Atletico Madrid did that. I believe Barcelona does that as well, where they get another, it's basically like a bank who loans them money. And Arsenal doesn't have that. They have zero bad debt. When I saw that in January, my jaw dropped because it's just unheard of. from a club. So you have to really think that, man, these guys are doing it right. And you look at all the new commercial revenue that's coming into the club with Puma. I mean, the Puma deal can be up to, I think, with incentives and bonuses. It depends on who we sign, what kind of trophies we win. I don't think it has anything to do with sales at all. But I think it's, wins, trophies, players that we sign, that we can make up to something around 40 to 45 million pounds every single year from Puma. Because Puma's smart. They know with wins, with trophies, with different signings like Alexis Sanchez, it's going to bring a ton of more money for them. Arsenal is set to make this season, or this year, this physical year, up to possibly even more, is about 70 million pounds in commercial revenue alone. I think last year they made something like 35 million pounds. They doubled that in 1 year because of all of our new commercial revenue coming in. I read a news article of how Nike really stuck it to Arsenal, where they had like a 10-year contract, and after about 4 or 5 years, that contract was a joke of what kind of revenue they were bringing in from Nike. I think from Nike they were only bringing in something like 6 to 7 million pounds a year, while Nike was making probably hundreds of millions of dollars off the Arsenal name with all their merchandise. And just with that article alone of saying that they have zero bad debt, I mean, that is just insane. And then, of course, you look at our player net, our spending net. We were in the negative, for Christ's sake, while other clubs had like 118 million pounds they had spent. We were in the negative because of all of our sales of our players like Cesc Fabregas and RVP, Alex Son, Sammy Nasri, all those guys. That included even the players that we brought in, like Olivier Giroud, Santi Cazorla, which is just, I mean, it's insane that our players, our spent player net was in the negative after last year. So this new era of Arsenal Football Club, I mean, it's going to be great. When you're looking at, we have actual businessmen doing the right things and making Arsenal Football Club better. Because I know a lot of people question Stan Kroenke and Ivan Gazidis, Arsene Wenger. Will they do the right thing this summer? Will they do the right thing even last summer? Will they spend money? Because Arsenal just wasn't doing it. But at the same time, as fans, we were arrogant. We were ignorant even. Because Arsene Wenger kept on trying to tell us, just wait, just wait, just wait. 1 more year. Stan Kroenke was even saying the same thing. Ivan Gazidis was saying the same thing. But of course, when you don't win trophies, you don't want to wait. You want a trophy. You want to see the club invest. And it's finally happened. It finally happened last summer with Mesut Ozil breaking the transfer record. 42.5 pounds. A world-class player, a world-class talent. The best playmaker in the world. This season you're seeing Alexis Sanchez coming to the club, Mathieu Debuchy, possibly a Loic Remy, possibly a Lars Bender or Sami Khedira. You're seeing big names come to the club, respected names. And you're seeing them going out and spending the money. And you kind of have to think back to, you kind of have to laugh that we had the last laugh of hearing guys like, RVP, even Cesc Fabregas saying, there's no ambition at the club, that they don't want to spend money, they don't want to invest in a club. And now they're seeing this. They're seeing all the Twitter feeds, Facebook, newspapers, throughout these last 4 or 5 days. Arsenal has been the headline. and everybody's just ripping the shit out of Arsenal because they don't want to see Arsenal succeed. This is the last club they want to see succeed because we're doing things the right way. We're not doing things like Chelsea, like Man City. I'm not going to rip Man City because Man City has yet to even. I have yet to see any type of Manchester City fan kind of like rip us for what we're doing. But you're even seeing Man City kind of taking a step back, especially after this FFP penalty that they got. That they're taking a step back to saying, you know what, maybe we should do things right, the business way, instead of just throwing money like it's water. But I think you're going to see a new era that a lot of clubs are going to take what Arsenal is doing, maybe what like Dortmund is doing, and trying to do things the right way, doing things the business way of what they're supposed to do. Because now we're reaping the benefits. We have all of our youngsters coming up, mature, ready to be players, and we're going to be adding pieces around those guys. Adding a Mesut Ozil, adding Alexis Sanchez, 2 world-class players to go around our potential world-class players who are right on the edge. I think if Theo Walcott has another season that he did in 12 and 13, you have to start to consider him one of the best right wingers in the world, at least as far as attacking output. Aaron Ramsey, if he has another season like he did this past season and stays healthy, you have to really start considering him as a world-class player. If Kieran Gibbs can stay healthy, you have to start considering him as one of the best left backs in the EPL. And of course, everybody knows the talent level of Jack Wilshere. All that he needs, again, he has to stay healthy. Because he's one of the more creative players in England. And it's kind of a shame that he didn't get more of a chance in the World Cup because, that's what England needed. They needed a creative player on the pitch, which they did not have, especially for those first 2 games against Italy, against Uruguay. You're seeing these kids grow up into players, and then you're seeing Arsenal spending money. It's going to be an exciting time. Even Arsene Wenger said it, after the FA Cup, that this is going to be an exciting time. That these group of players are ready to take that next step, that they're ready to win. And this era is going to be fun to watch. And it's going to be fun to watch. And the question is, I kind of posed to everyone out there, does this change the perception of Arsene Wenger, Ivan Gazidis, Stan Kroenke, seeing them go back-to-back years going after world-class talent and spending the money that we all desired? We all wanted to spend that money, get in that world-class talent, make us better, help us win trophies. And I think winning the FA Cup really helped things along even quicker. They saw the parade, they saw the what it did for the fans, of how happy they were. And sometimes in business, you have to spend money to make money. And on top of that, like I said, with 0 bad debt, with new commercial deals, Arsenal is up on the up. And that's what a lot of the media outlets and journals hate to see. It's great when you see a player said, you know what, I don't want to go to Liverpool. You're seeing a lot of players say that. You're seeing even a lot of players saying, I don't want to go to Manchester United. Great things are going to happen because, I'm going to do a season review probably like a week before, maybe a few days before the season starts. But, if we add all the players that we're supposed to be adding, I think we win the league next year. Because while other people are adding mediocre pieces, like a Liverpool with Ricky Lambert, Adam Lallana, even though I think Adam Lallana is a good player, but Are you really going to compare him to Alexis Sanchez? No, you can't. He's not on the same level. He's a good player, but he's not on that level. He will never be on that level. Of course, Chelsea is adding pieces, but is Diego Costa overrated? Are Cesc Fabregas' best days behind him? They have an aging, John Terry in their back four. How long can that guy hold on? And of course, all that Chelsea's going to do anyway is park the bus anyway. But now with Arsenal adding pieces, we're going to be even more dangerous. Things are going to start opening up even more. You're going to see the counter-attacking football. You're going to see the beautiful football that we were seeing back in the Invincible days with Dennis Bergkamp, with Patrick Vieira, Thierry Henry, Robert Perez. You're going to see that kind of era, I think, come back to Arsenal, to where it's just going to be like we're going to be able to score in a blink of an eye. You're going to see probably more play like the Jack Wilshere goal against Norwich, Thomas Rosický's goal against Sunderland. You're going to see the attack open up even more. You're going to see a better Mesut Ozil this season. You're going to see even a better probably Aaron Ramsey this season. So I think this new era of Arsenal Football Club that started all the way back in the early 2000s is showing its face, and people don't like it. If you're an Arsenal fan, you're loving it right now. When you see the media bagging on your favorite club, we're doing something right. When we even have other players from other clubs saying, well, they're doing things right over there. Arsenal is an intriguing place to go to. But going on to a little bit of a transfer kick here. I saw a tweet today that Sami Khedira wants £200,000 a week in wages. And I'm sorry, the guy is good, but he is not that good. If he wants those type of wages, push him right out the door. Say thanks, but no thanks. I think if he wants around like 140K a week, then go ahead and sign the guy. But 200,000, that's ridiculous. He'd be making more than Mesut Ozil. He'd be making more than Alexis Sanchez, and he's not better than those two players at all. I think Alexis Sanchez is making around 140, I believe. But if he wants 200,000 a week, no. Especially at his age of 27, no. Coming off a knee injury, no thank you. I'd rather have a Lars Bender or a Morgan Schneiderlin who adds, more pace, more of a defensive mind than a Sami Khedira who likes to bomb forward too much. So that was the kind of thing that was going around Twitter today of Sami Khedira wants $200,000 or £200,000 in wages, which is absolutely ridiculous. To think about those type of wages on a player who may or may not play his role on the team. Will he be good? Will he be a great addition if they sign him? Sure, but not for that type of money. Do we have that money to pay someone? Sure, but I mean, come on. You pay one of the top 10 or 15 players in the world that type of money. You don't pay Sami Khedira that type of money. And some Real Madrid fans are saying, well, that's just that's just for Real Madrid to give him new paper. But Real Madrid did offer him a new contract, and he denied it. I think he wants more than 2 years. He has one more year left on his deal, and he wants two more. And Real Madrid was giving him 2 more years, so that would lead him up to about 30 years old. And Real Madrid is kind of like any other club. Once you hit the wrong side of 30, they kind of try to start pushing you out the door. But I thought that was interesting to hear. I think that's a ridiculous wage demand I know Real Madrid fans and some other fans are saying, Sami Khedira passed up going to Manchester United last year for, I believe they supposedly bid 40 million pounds or 40 million euros for Sami Khedira last year, and he said no, he didn't want to go there. But if he wants those type of wage demands, no, we don't need that type of uh, guy on our team who thinks he's more special than anybody else. Um, if we can get a Lars Bender for, as far as the defensive mind, technical ability, tactical ability, of course, like I said in my last episode, Lars Bender and Morgan Schneiderlin are your guys that you want. Of course, Sami Khedira is a great name. He's a he's a global name. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows his talent. But again, those type of wages are kind of ridiculous. Whether they're true or not, I don't know. There's a lot of other rumors going around that we're very close to a deal with Sami Khedira, that he's trying to force a move to Arsenal. Now, if you're trying to force a move to Arsenal, the chances are saying that he's trying to demand those type of wages. I don't know. It's kind of like the Loic Remy. I saw a couple tweets that Loic Remy can't come to personal terms with Arsenal. I find that hard to believe because he wants to come to Arsenal more than anyone. You could say he wants to come to Arsenal more than Debuchy, more than Alexis Sanchez, anybody. Like I said in my previous, his idol is Thierry Henry, and he's an Arsenal fan on top of that. So I kind of find it hard to believe that he couldn't come to some type of personal terms with Arsenal. So I think that's maybe like a media smokescreen, maybe a little bit. And this might be a media smokescreen too. This might be some bogus information being let out by Arsenal themselves, saying, we're going to say he wants these type of wages so other teams won't go after him. Because that's kind of like the trouble you have to go through transfers. Once a team finds out a certain player is available, other clubs might come after him. Especially with Alexis Sanchez stuff. The smokescreen was basically Mario Balotelli. That was the smokescreen throughout that whole process. For everybody to think that we're getting Mario Balotelli, but in reality, we were getting Alexis Sanchez. And there's a YouTube video of Arsene Wenger talking about what it meant to get Alexis Sanchez into the club, and he said that Alexis Sanchez is a modern day striker. So if anybody's wondering what position he's going to play most of, it's probably going to be the striker role. He probably will play on the wing, no doubt, but Arsene Wenger even said it himself that he's a modern day striker. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing to hear. That what I've been saying like this whole time is I think that Arsenal was the only club to offer Alexis Sanchez what he probably wants, and that's to play striker, the chance to play striker. He didn't have the chance to do it at Barcelona because of Messi. Obviously, Liverpool was stupid enough to undervalue him and also say he's only a winger. Juventus, I hear they're going to a 4-3-3 style of play now instead of a 3-5-2. So maybe even Juventus said, well, you're going to play on the wing, you're not going to play up top. That's another thing about going back to like the new era along with Alexis Sanchez. Mesut Ozil, Alexis Sanchez, two world-class players. One of their main reasons coming to the club is Arsene Wenger. So if anybody doubts, if anybody says Wenger out ever again, you should just, take a baseball bat and slam it over your head. Because if we don't have this guy, we don't get those two guys. If we don't have Arsene Wenger as our manager, chances are, you even saw players coming out last year, like Jack Wilshere, like even Aaron Ramsey, even Theo Walcott, I believe, said it as well. If Arsene Wenger leaves or he gets fired, I'm gone. So you can see how important that Arsene Wenger is, not only to the players, but to the club, but to other players who want to come here. And that's another great thing to see. We just have to trust him more. It was tough, in early, you know, 2010, 11, 12, 13. It was tough to try to see what the business model of Arsenal was, of where Arsene Wenger was trying to take this thing. And now we're seeing it. So going back into transfers a little bit, again, it's just my personal opinion. I'd rather have Lars Bender above anybody else because he adds pace and the defensive technical abilities and tactical abilities as a defensive midfielder. Because, like I said, I mean, what's better, to have a name or to fill a need? I'd rather fill a need than to have a name. But then again, like I said, if Sami Khedira tells Arsene Wenger, I'll be that role player, I will set up shop right in front of the back four every single game, especially in those important games. In bottom half teams, Sami Khedira could probably bomb forward as much as he wants. But when you play a Chelsea, when you're playing a Manchester United, Liverpool, Manchester City, when you're playing in Champions League even, you need that guy to set up shop. And it's kind of difficult to really see that Sami Khedira can be that guy. Maybe he'll be able to be that guy. There'll be enough German contingent within the club for the transition to go over smoothly. And other transfer news. There's nothing else really coming out. There's a couple people saying that they could see 2 more big names coming to the club in the coming weeks or before the transfer window's over. I don't know how those people define big names. Sami Khedira is obviously one. Who would be the third one? Now, if Arsene Wenger sees Alexis Sanchez as a modern day striker, if he is going to play up top, that opens up the wing. And who's in the news today? Di Maria. Di Maria has come out and basically said, I do not want to go back to Real Madrid next year. Which is pretty shocking. So obviously something's in the work as far as Real Madrid of who they're going to go after, whether it's James Rodriguez, Toni Kroos is supposed to be coming to the club. Who knows? Who knows what they have in store as far as Real Madrid goes, of who else is going to be coming to that club. But Di Maria said, yeah, I want to leave the club, and he wants to go to PSG. I guess Manchester United and even Liverpool have already inquired about him, and he said no to both of them, I guess. But he would say yes to Liverpool just because they have Champions League. But he wants to go to a Champions League football team. So, because when I saw these tweets of, a couple of people that are supposedly in the know as far as inside information of Arsenal doings, Arsenal news, who kind of break stuff before it happens a little bit on Twitter. If Alexis Sanchez is a striker, if he's going to play up top, that leaves the wing open again. That leaves the left wing open. So is Di Maria a possibility? He might be. If people are saying that they can see a couple more big names coming to the club, Di Maria might be in play. Because I don't know what the fuck PSG is doing, because those motherfuckers are going to be paying twice as much and probably lose Champions League football in the next year or two, because they don't give a shit about what they're doing. Obviously. I mean, they spent $50 million on fucking David Luiz, who's overrated as shit. I mean, that guy's worth maybe $25 million. I mean, you're seeing a guy like Matt Hummels, who is twice the defender David Luiz is, saying that his price tag is only about £25 million. But you're seeing a guy like David Luiz go for fucking 50? and they're supposed to be in with Antoine Griezmann as well. That's another name we have to look out for as far as Arsenal goes. That his name is really dried up over the last few weeks. His name was a hot name going into the summer, and all of a sudden it's dried up. There's not too much talk of him. So you almost kind of think something might be in the works here. And I said in one of my other episodes, even with signing Alexis Sanchez and all the names that we might be bringing in, Debuchy, Remy, either a Schneiderlin, a Bender, or a Khedira, that there might be something else in the works. Because when you add up all the transfer fees and everything like that, when you add the money that we got from Villa and Cesc Fabregas, we're still going to have, even after all those transfers, we're still going to have around 25 to 30 million pounds to spend. So is there something else in the works? Real Madrid came out, or supposedly said, that we will not listen to any offers that are less than 40 million euros. That equates to about 32 million pounds. So is that a possibility? Is that another big name that people are trying to get out at us? I have a hard time believing it, but it's good to think about. It's good. It's nice to think about that. We have the possibility of spending this type of money on players now. That this business model, this new era of Arsenal Football Club is taking shape. That we can start competing with the biggest clubs in the world for players and pay them the wages that they want. Unless you're Sami Khedira and you want 200,000 pounds a week, which is ridiculous. But is a Di Maria another possibility? Is that a second big name coming in? And there's a rumor going around that we want to sign Sami Khedira and Lars Bender. I don't know how that's going to work. There's just no fucking way that's going to work. I can't see Arsenal doing that. Because we're gonna start pissing people off then. If we bring in both of those names, then one of two people are leaving the club. Either Mikel Arteta or Matthew Flamini is going to be leaving the club, because there's going to be way too many bodies then. When you look at trying to build a team and or building a club up and building squad depths, you basically want two squads. Especially when you play on four fronts, you want two squads. You want your main starter and you want a backup for each position. And even some positions you need more. Like a winger, you need two wingers. There's two wingers on the pitch. You probably need 4 to 5 to 6 possibly. I mean, you look at Chelsea; they have like 1,000 fucking wingers on their squad right now, which is ridiculous. They're buying up wingers left and right last year. I just don't understand that one. But it's just like I cannot believe that rumor that we're going to buy Khedira and Bender at the same time, because it just doesn't make any sense. Because Khedira is a box-to-box type of player, type of CM. Are you really going to start him over Aaron Ramsey? Fuck no. I wouldn't even start him over Jack Wilshere. I know that's kind of crazy. Maybe I'm being a little biased on that one, but I seriously probably wouldn't even, because I mean, even Jack is faster than him. Aaron Ramsey is faster than him. Khedira is not the fastest player in the world. But it's kind of, I can't believe that they would be buying both of those players, because then you would see players leaving the club for sure. Well, can they really dump Arteta now? Since doing that launch, after being a Puma player, that would be kind of a little bit of a stain if they did something like that. But I can't see them doing it. I can't see Arsene Wenger doing that. That just doesn't make any sense. But that's a rumor going around as well. But are the big names left on the board? Are they Sammy Khedira? Are they Angel Di Maria? Does Di Maria even want to come here? I know a lot of Real Madrid fans say that Di Maria wants to go somewhere where he wants to be the man, where he wants to be one of the more important players on the club. I don't know if I don't know if Arsenal can really provide that. PSG possibly could. I mean, Ibra's getting old. He's going to be pushing on at some point. I think he's like 32, 33 right now. So you can't say he has. He probably has maybe 2, 3 more years left in him before he pushes on. Lavetzi's not exactly the. Of course, maybe that's why he wants to go there, but then that doesn't make any sense for PSG to go after him unless they're going to make Di Maria an attacking midfielder playing that number 10 role. But then where does that leave Edinson Cavani? Which I can't see PSG, selling either because, like I said, Ibra's getting old. They need someone to back up when Ibra leaves or when he gets hurt. So that's another big name that's resurfacing for Arsenal is Di Maria. But other than that, this thing's getting too long, and yeah, I think I'm just gonna end it here. And if any other news comes out or whatever, as far as transfer stuff goes, the first preseason game is next Saturday, which I'm looking forward to. I don't know if they'll be able to stream it live somewhere on the internet. Hopefully they will be able to. If there's even going to be cameras there in the first place, who knows. But of course in 2 weeks, Arsenal comes to New York to play the New York Red Bulls and Thierry Henry, which I'm looking forward to. I know that'll be definitely, I think for any of the American Gooners out there, I'm pretty sure it's going to be on NBC, just because of the basic fact that, English Premier League, NBC has the English Premier League, and they also have the rights still to the MLS. So, looking forward to that. Looking forward to get this season on their way. It's going to be an exciting one. I think it's going to be one of the best seasons I think that we will see in recent memory, and it's something to be excited about. But again, anything else comes up, I'll do another Arsenal talk and kind of talk it over and give you my opinion. And if you have any opinions, you have anything to say, leave them down in the comments. Don't be afraid. I'll try to get back to you and try to reply to you as much as I can. So anyway, but just throw this in as well. Thanks to all the subscribers that have subscribed to me, whether I have 1 subscriber or 100 subscribers. I'm going to keep on doing this because can't get enough talking about Arsenal Football Club. It's just like everybody else out there. I love the club. I love talking about it. So, but this will be the end of it. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the World Cup. Hopefully Germany wins. Hopefully those boys come back as world champions, and just give an extra lift to the club. Even more of a spotlight on Arsenal, which would be great. But yeah, that'll be it. And later.